أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Dear South Hadley Halka brothers, I'm going to talk to you in a different way, though on regular basis we talk in a different manner, but I am going to record few lectures primarily for this halqa, but through this halqa I hope that these lectures would find larger audience in this area, in this country, and maybe beyond. So even in the halqa, not many people know that sometime I write. I am not talking about my professional life. I'm talking about non-professional. In my non-professional capacity, I sometimes write. So a couple of years ago, one of you probably, I don't remember who, and I'm very thankful that that was done. Somebody asked me a question about Riba, and I researched that topic for a while, and then ultimately ended up in a book, which is this book, which is the Islamic Finance and the Riba, which I published a couple of years ago. It's books, nowadays people don't read too many books, so I don't know if anybody has read this book. So in any case, this book was written a couple of years ago, and it was translated in Urdu recently, a few months ago. So when it was translated in Urdu, somebody invited me in Pakistan, where I went for main purpose of talking about this book. The book is very relevant to Islamic finance, banking, and especially all of us interested in riba. So there was huge interest. There were a lot of people, some bankers and citizens and many other folks who came to that meeting where introduction of this book happened and many people spoke. And I can just humbly share with you that the reviews were quite good. So after going through that process and after hearing to people's concern and firsthand witnessing what is happening in Pakistan in economic sector, in banking sector, in financial sector, I figure out that there is some value to what I say and what I have written and my point of view. And it would be reasonable to share that point of view with larger audience. In fact, I couldn't even do it in Pakistan because only small community was in that function or event. So I promised them that when I go back, I come back to US, I'll make YouTube videos and to talk about this subject. So this is what I'm doing, and you know me already, but maybe this video would go to someone who does not know me. So for those people, my name is Zubair Kareem. I am professionally a physician, but sometime like I said, I write about different things, and this was one of my books. I'm a Muslim, but I do not identify or belong to any sect or group, or I do not follow any Imam, Tariqa, Sufi style or mentor. I'm not part of Qadiani or MD group either. So I don't have any really religious affiliation other than I'm a member of local Islamic Society of Western Massachusetts, which is our local masjid. I'm also one of their trustees. That's just my role there is minimal. I don't really speak on their behalf, and what I'm doing is it's not on their behalf. It is on my personal, in my personal capacity. So As far as my understanding and knowledge of Islam and religion is concerned, I'm an average Muslim, though I have interest in reading. I, I do listen to my elders, mentors. I'd read, and whichever avenue I could find, I try to learn. But the source material, as you know, for Islam, ultimate source material is the Quran and the Hadith, which is just I put a couple of books here for Quran and Hadith just for reflection that is our source material. The purpose of doing these lectures is to primarily talk about riba. Now, riba is one of the most complicated, I would say the most complicated aspect of Islam, or at least it is presented in that manner. I disagree that it is complicated, but it is presented as the most complicated aspect of Islam, so much so that even professionals who deal with it, they had to have training sessions and formal trainings, and even I met many people who are trainers for Islamic finance and who have been trained for Islamic finance, and I also listened to their anxieties and their uncertainties about all that. So despite all that, full understanding is still not there, even in that community. So it is made to us as the most complicated aspect of Islam. So that's the topic I'm going to discuss to make things, try to make things easy for you. Now, what is happening in Pakistan, at least, is that the government has decided a few years ago to change all banking to Islamic banking, whatever that is, and we will talk about it, and I'll comment on that, and remove riba from society. That's what they say they are doing. So, and recently, Supreme Court has asked the banking sector to convert everything to Islamic banking, and there is a lot of anxiety about that. So if you, when I went to Pakistan now, I went to local places in Islamabad, and what I see is that every bank, almost every bank has changed their color to green and put an Islamic word before their name, and so they are Islamic banks all around, and the one who are not yet Islamic, they are going to add that word very soon. So the question is, what does that mean? People used to think that these kind of things like Islamic banking or riba, that is just a concern for religious people or religiously minded people, but what is happening at this stage in Muslim countries, and especially in Pakistan, is that it doesn't matter who you are Muslim or non-Muslims. In fact, even if you have accounts which you started whenever you started, they are all being converted to Islamic banking. And so you don't have, very soon you won't have a choice anymore. So it is better to know what is happening. So these lectures which I'm going to record hopefully would help you understand, will help you understand and provide you comprehensive view of this subject. When I look at this subject, obviously I can tell you that these lectures are not going to be one or two lectures. They're going to be, in my mind, if I understand correctly, it's going to be about 7 or 8 lectures. That much time it would take to explain to you all these things. So I would divide these lectures in maybe about half an hour each. Now, the problems nowadays in Muslim societies, especially in Pakistani societies, is that they have significant difficulty with understanding what is fair, what is just, and what is true. This is what I find. I find this quite a significant intellectual problem, And because of this intellectual problem at all levels, I'm not talking about just the one section of the community, all sections of the community, and especially that section which is supposed to lead in these areas, such as judiciary and religious folks. They are equally culprit in this, and they are having difficulty with what is fair, what is just, and what is true. So we will talk about this when I go into it. So what has happened because of this problem that the society, especially those sections of the society who is supposed to lead in terms of what is fair and what is true and what is just, because of that problem, Muslim societies in Pakistan being the glaring example, and I would say the subcontinent society, Indian Muslims are in the same group, and many other Muslim societies in the same group. They are really divided. If you want me to comment on Pakistani society or Muslim societies, I would say they are divided, polarized, confused, indifferent, controlled, scared, and partly paralyzed, both in physical and intellectual capacities. At the same time, I see a lot of enthusiasm that people, when you talk to them individually, they're very eager to learn and very, at least to learn, if not to change. They want to know different points of view. That was encouraging, and that's, I thought we should work on that. Now, that was the first part of this lecture, that I wanted to tell you who I am and why I'm doing this. The second part of this lecture is that I have to tell you that what is my overall mission in this. When I wrote this book or the previous books, why do I do this? And in fact, somebody asked me this question in Pakistan, and I didn't really think that I had any particular mission in my mind, but then I reflected on this and looked at all my work and figured out that actually there is a theme behind what I do. And some of you who know me through the Halqa, you probably would agree with me that there is a particular theme, there is a particular mission, and I wanted to share that mission with you and everybody else who might listen to this lecture. And that mission is that I want people to be something that they are not. For example, if you look at Muslim societies, especially Pakistani societies, whenever we are looking for an opinion on something, let's say we want to know what Riba is, or anything for that matter, religious or non-religious, what we try to do is, of course, nowadays people Google, that's one, or they talk to someone. It's very common in Pakistan to just call someone, or talk to Imam, or read a book. So they gather information this way or that way. And then almost all of us stop there, and we make up our mind that based upon different factors, sometimes we respect somebody's opinion and we just take it as final word, and we are not willing to listen to any argument that there could be an alternate point of view, or we are not willing to argue that our basis of accepting one point of view over other, so that we don't go there. So technically we are muqallid. What I'm saying is that most Muslims, most Pakistanis are muqallid. Taqleed, they follow. They follow someone. And that process started long time ago. And if you go into Pakistan now, that you would see it everywhere, in religious fairs and non-religious fairs. We are muqallid. And this is where our difficulty is, that my thesis is that this is one of the fundamental reasons for our problems, that we just follow some fiqh, some tariqah, some imam, some sheikh, some guru, somebody. we follow them in one way or other. So, and that is our problem. Now, question is that the right course to take? So for every question like that, we go back to the Quran and try to find out in Quran or Hadith if that is the right way to do. So when I try to look into our basic text, Quran and Hadith, about answer to this question, what I find is that we are told to do exactly opposite. We are told to not be muqallid and in fact be what is known as Muffakir. So we don't do that, and I would bring your attention to this particular subject. I was thinking how to convey this point to you. So thinking about this, this is an example I like to provide to you. For example, you you must have noted reading Quran that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam has a particular status. His status is described in Quran again and again and again and again, and his status is higher than many other prophets. And it question is why his status is that high. For example, when we after every salah we recite the salam to the Prophet Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama barakta ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. We are asked to do this at least 5 times a day or more, and more and more. And we do that. We do it for for barakat, blessing, and to raise our ranks, to get more hasanat, for sawab. That's the fundamental reason people do it. I'm not going to go into that. I would just bring your attention to one particular aspect of this statement in reference to what I'm going to talk to you about. The thing is, if you look at the Rood, what we are doing is, we as human beings, this is a dua. We are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are asking Him that He should send salam to peace to Rasul Akram and his progeny. And also we are asking that his rank should be increased, his and his progenies, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did with the Prophet Ibrahim and his progeny. Now the question is, what was so special about Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam that we are asked to make this dua for Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Unbelievable statement that we should think about, that what was so special about Prophet Ibrahim. Prophet Ibrahim's subject is so broad that one could talk for hours and hours, but I'm just going to touch one part of that. And that is that what I find very special about Prophet Ibrahim is that his status was higher. His status was special because of his particular understanding of Tawheed. And that has been mentioned in the Quran. Fundamentally, Tawheed is the most difficult concept to understand for human being. It is easier to say that I'm a Muslim and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, but to really understand that and in your heart and brain fully grasp that idea is not easy. If somebody says it's easy, I'm sorry, that's really not easy. It is a very difficult concept, especially if you want to have full grasp of that. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam had the full grasp of that. And that really was the reason his level was so high. Question is, how did he reach that level in this area? An answer to that question also is in the Quran, where a whole process is described. That his discussion in front of Namrud, and he grew up in a home with idols and people all around doing different things. Now he's a thinking man, so he's thinking about who is my Lord, who is the Rabb, and he is asking different questions. He's making observation, asking questions, and making logical conclusions. One more time, he is making observation, asking questions, and making logical conclusions. For example, he looked at idols and must have noted that these things are made by people, so they cannot be Rabb. So a simple observation and conclusion, so he disregarded that idea. Then he looked at sun and thought maybe sun is Suraj, sun is the Lord. But then evening came and the sun was gone, and so he made a logical conclusion that is not, cannot be true. Same goes for moon and stars. So similarly, these examples are quoted in the Quran. They're quoted in the Quran for a particular purpose, for us to teach us a process. Quranic descriptions are not just stories for enjoy. There is a purpose behind all this, and that purpose is to teach us a particular process, a process of reaching truth or right conclusion, which is that whatever interest you have, you look at the data. Observation means you collect all the data, you make some kind of argument and any hypothesis that maybe that is true, but then whatever the result is, either you accept it or disregard it. That's a logical conclusion. This whole process of reaching this way is what fikr is, what makes a person mufakkir. That's why all scientists really are mufakkir. They work in different fields. They are mufakkirs. So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was mufakkir in that capacity, in that area. Now, you also have to understand that understanding of a subject, and in this category, in this example, understanding of Tawheed for Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, that cannot be matched by somebody who was just told. Even if Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam told his son that about Tawheed, so his son's understanding is still not going to be as good as Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam's understanding, because he reached that conclusion with a process, that process of fikr. And that's why Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam's rank is so high. With the same token, this whole process is so superior, and that's what we have been supposed to do. We have been told to do indirectly. And we are not just asked to follow somebody or somebody wrote something like Zubair Karim says something and you just keep on following. No, we are not asked to do that. We are asked to listen to that but review and then analyze and reach a logical conclusion. So that is the process of fikr. All those people who were around Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, they were muqallid. They were following their ancestors or whatever they are doing. It was Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam who was mufakkir. So what I do in my writing is on a very small and humble scale. What I do is I coax people to be mufakkir. I am taking them away from life of being a muqallid. I see that being a muqallid has destroyed personalities, families, and societies. And we can talk in length about that, but that's what is happening, especially to the society of subcontinent. and there are reasons for that, but especially societies of religious societies of subcontinent are particularly suffering from this because they promote, their institutions promote people to be muqallid, not mufakkir. So this is my mission, ultimate mission, though I am going to use an example of riba to reach that. Now, before I conclude this first lecture, I would say that whatever I'm going to talk about, we have to understand that what is the source material and the criteria. Because the topic is religious, the source material and criteria is going to be the Quran and Hadith of Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As far as Quran is concerned, it is in Arabic, and Arabic is not my language. I know just very little of it. But nowadays, Quran has been translated in so many languages, and especially for people who speak Urdu or English, Quran has been translated by so many different people, meaning there are so many different Urdu translations and so many different English translations available. So for my understanding, especially for this subject, I'm not an authority on Quran. On this subject, I researched, so I reviewed, when I was writing this book, I reviewed about more than 15 different translations, which some of them were written in Urdu, some were written in English, and some of them were done originally in Arabic, meaning tafsir was done in Arabic and then it was translated in English. I looked at all that. Though in the book, I have only included English translations, and I have provided the reasons for that too. Hadith, it has been translated in both English and Urdu, at least most of it, and that is also available. So the source material is the Quran and Hadith, and since I have written this book for this particular subject, I have in fact reviewed a couple of more tafsirs which were previously not available to me. So I believe that I have a reasonably good collection of translations or translators who were at least linguistically much better than I am. That was their field, so they translated the Quran. But what happens, every translator, other than linguistics, they also put their thoughts into it. So sometimes there is a difference. And those things are very, very important to analyze. So we are going to do that. So in this first lecture, I provided my brief introduction. I didn't say one thing which I have forgotten, that though I'm going to mention this book because this is the trigger for this whole thing, I'm not here to sell this book. I think few copies of this book have been sold. This is my hobby, and I don't know how many of you know that this hobby is not that cheap. It really, instead of making money, nobody makes money writing these kind of books. So that's not my purpose. I'm not here to make money out of this or make money out of these videos either. That's not my livelihood. And I'm not looking for any position, any type of religious position or academic position. That's not my intention. My livelihood is different. So with that, I finished this first lecture. So in which I talked about myself, who I am. Second, my reasoning for why I'm doing this. And third, my main mission, that I wanted you to be Muffakir, not muqallid. And we would go into in more detail in my second lecture. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us go through this process with open mind and heart, so that we reach truth and we stay away from falsehood. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.